Hare Krishna, welcome to all the devotees in today's session of the Secrets of Bhagavad Gita. Om Ajnanatimiraandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Vayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Supadandikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Today we are going to discuss Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text number 40, particularly Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. As we discussed yesterday, from this point onwards, uh, we will be having two approaches to understand Bhagavad Gita. First approach uh, is to understand through Srila Prabhupada's explanations, that is Bhakti Yoga, which is the culmination of all the yogas. So we will interpret all yogas, whether it is Nishkam Karma or Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, is Bhakti Yoga. And that is one approach. And another is the traditional understanding of these various terms. When it is mentioned Nishkam Karma, then what does it mean? When it is mentioned Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, so what all this actually refer to? So we will be discussing those uh, in those terms, Nishkam Karma, Jnana, or Ashtanga Yoga, etc. So uh, yesterday we discussed how Srila Prabhupada explains uh, this particular verse, Neha Vikrama Nashosti Pratyavayona Vidyate Salpamapi Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat, uh, as Bhakti Yoga, because this verse actually refers to Bhakti Yoga, but it can also refer to Nishkam Karma. Uh, so we will see the another aspect of this particular verse. So first I will just read the verse in translation once again, then we will start. नेहा विक्रमनाशोस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. Translation: in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Okay, so this exclusively uh, refer to the glorification of Bhakti Yoga, but by extension, it can also refer to Nishkam Karma Yoga. Now we will see what is Nishkam Karma Yoga here. So we will discuss Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary line by line, and we'll try to understand uh, what details we get. Vishri Vishwanatha. अत्र योगो द्विधः श्रवण कीर्तनादि भक्ति रूपः श्री भगवत अर्पित निष्काम कर्म रूपश्च. So Sri Vishwanath Thakur explains that here the yoga is of two types. The first one is Shravana Kirtana Adi Bhakti Rupa. So first one yoga is Bhakti Yoga, which is uh, characterized by Shravana Kirtan, Smarana, Archanam, Vandanam ityadi. So so all these nine limbs of bhakti, they are called Bhakti Yoga. So this one type of Bhakti Yoga, and another is Sri Bhagavad Arpita Nishkama Karma Rupasya. So another Bhakti Yoga is, which is not actually uh, technically known as Bhakti Yoga, but it can also be called Bhakti Yoga or Yoga uh, uh, by extension. So what is that? So Nishkam Bhagavad Shri Bhagavad Arpita Nishkama Karma Rupaha. So whatever karma, uh, here karma means whatever uh, Shastrokta karma we perform according to our varna and ashrama. So when we perform that with detachment to its results and offer it to Sri Bhagavan or Lord Krishna, then it is called Bhagavad Arpit Nishkama Karma Rupaha Yogaha, which is also uh, a type of Bhakti Yoga. But technically, it is not Bhakti Yoga. That we should understand. So, Krishna Chakra Thakur would explain why it is not uh, predominantly Bhakti Yoga, but only by extension it can be uh, considered as a form of Bhakti Yoga. So, we will see that. तो तत्र कर्मणेव अधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन इत्यादि इत्यतः प्राक् भक्ति योग एव निरूप्यते. So now in this context, uh, from this particular verse onwards up to कर्मण्येव अधिकारस्ते, that means Bhagavad Gita 247. So from 240 to 247 there will be discussion of bhakti yoga. So that we should keep in mind that now we are going to discuss Bhakti Yoga, pure Bhakti Yoga up to this 7 8 verses. नैस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन इति उक्तेर भक्तिरेव त्रिगुणातीतत्वात् तया एव पुरुषो नैस्त्रैगुण्यो भवति इति एकादश स्कन्धे प्रसिद्धे. ज्ञानकर्मणस्तु सात्विकत्व राजसत्वाभ्यां निस्त्रैगुण्यत्व अनुपपत्तेर् भगवदर्पितलक्षणा भक्तिस्तु कर्मणो वैफल्य अभावमात्रं प्रतिपादयति न तु स्वस्य भक्तिव्यपदेशं प्राधान्य अभावात् एव. Now these are some technical stuff. We will try to understand it step by step. It's not that difficult. Okay. First, we should understand that in Bhagavad Gita, throughout Bhagavad Gita, uh, the, there are places where Bhakti Yoga, pure Bhakti Yoga means Shravana Kirtanadi Rupaha Bhakti Yoga. So that is the Bhakti Yoga which is characterized by hearing, chanting, remembering the Lord, all. So this particular type of Bhakti Yoga has been mentioned throughout Bhagavad Gita uh, at various places. So sometimes uh, modern scholars they are not able to understand this point, and they argue that uh, how do we say that Bhakti Yoga is the culmination of all yogas or the objective of all the other forms of yoga. So to get this point, we'll have to go to our first session of the Secrets of Bhagavad Gita, where we explained in great detail that there are six uh, characteristics by which we understand the purport of anything. How do we understand that Bhakti Yoga is the culmination of all yogas or is the objective of all the yogas? How do you understand that Lord Krishna wanted Arjuna and all living entities to come to this platform of Bhakti Yoga? If someone can come directly to Bhakti Yoga, that is fine. If not, then gradually through other yogas, he is supposed to come to Bhakti Yoga. Now, this is the conclusion we uh, offered. Now, someone can argue that how do you come to this conclusion? So then comes the rules of logic or mimamsa. Mimamsa is a way of interpreting the statements of shastras. So how do we interpret? It's not that any individuals would interpret according to his own understanding. That is not the way. There are standard ways to interpret Shastra. So within this Mimamsa study or a Nyaya study, Nyaya means logic. So there are ways. So there are six ways we can understand the abhipraya or conclusion of any particular text. So I will not go in great detail, but just briefly mention it. So it was upasamhara, upakrama, upasamhara, abhyasa, uh, apurvata, phalam, uh, उपपत्ति, उपक्रम उपसंहार अभ्यास पूर्वता फलम उपपत्ति. Yes, upapatti. That is the last one. Six. So by these six symptoms, we can understand that this is the intention of the speaker or author. So uh, we'll just touch uh, some of these points. Upakrama. Upakrama means introduction. So by introduction, we get the hint of the intention of the speaker. So upakrama, upakrama means? Upakrama means uh, how author introduces his uh, his speech or whatever he writes in the beginning. So that is an indicating of his intention. Then we have to see upasamhara also. Upasamhara means the summary or the conclusion or the end part of the speech or text author or speaker speaks or writes. So if you see the Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, there also we see that Lord Krishna propounds bhakti yoga. That because you are very dear to me, so I will reveal this confidential knowledge to you again. So Manamanabha Mat Bhakto, all these uh, verses come in that chapter. So again, in the beginning, now you see Nyahabhikramana here also there is Bhakti Yoga, and from this point onwards up to 247 there is Bhakti Yoga, pure Bhakti Yoga. So in the first part we see in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita we see Bhakti Yoga. Then in the last again there is Bhakti Yoga. Then Abhyasa, repetition. So throughout Bhakti Yoga in the seventh chapter we say Mayiva Madhata sorry Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashraya. So again, even in the seventh chapter there is Bhakti Yoga. And even before that also. And 12th chapter we'll see it's all the chapter itself is Bhakti Yoga. Teme yuktama mataha. So Lord Krishna declares that those who are uh, devoted to me, serving me with great faith, they are I consider them as the best of all yogis. So here in the 12th chapter we say Bhagavad Gita, say this Bhakti Yoga. Then in 14th chapter, 15th chapter, uh, and 17th chapter, everywhere we see Bhakti Yoga. So there is a repetition of Bhakti Yoga throughout the sorry, repetition of Bhakti Yoga throughout Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So this abhyasa, and so I will not go further because then that will yeah a completely different chapter. So anyway, just to give you some hint. So because of this introduction of Bhagavad or Bhakti Yoga in the beginning, in the in between, and at the end, we see that Bhakti Yoga is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, and that is why uh, Prabhupada explains uh, all other types of yoga also as Bhakti Yoga because other forms of Bhakti Yoga are actually uh, not applicable today. So anyway, uh, if people in general are not going to follow something, then it does not really make any sense to explain it in great detail. So that is also uh, a valid consideration. So sometimes scholars say argue that we should just write what is there in the book. So why should we care that whether people understand it or not? So that is a different thing. Well, uh, uh, for for argument, it sounds good that yes, we have to just represent what is there in the book. But the another consideration is that the actual import of the author of Bhagavad Gita, that is Lord Krishna, that should be revealed to the public. And because devotee or pure devotee of Lord Krishna uh, wants everyone to become devotee of Krishna, so uh, that is a very important consideration of representing Bhagavad Gita, which is actually applicable in today's time. Instead of just having a uh, being faithful to the original commentaries and translation, if the purpose is not served, then it's also a futile attempt. So, so this is a very valid consideration why Prabhupada explains even other forms of yoga as bhakti yoga. So, okay, we will continue this. Okay, so here it is said that नैस्त्रिगुण्य भवार्जुन इति भक्ते है त्रिगुणतात्वित्वा तया पुरुष नैस्त्रिगुण्य भवति. So uh, by bhakti yoga, which is trigunatita. Trigunatita means which is uh, transcendental or which is beyond the three modes of material nature. And that is why when a person performs bhakti yoga, he becomes transcendental to all the three modes of material nature. So that is the glorification of bhakti yoga. And in the 11th canto, uh, this tattva or this truth has been greatly explained. ज्ञान कर्मणस्तु सात्विकत्व राजसत्वाभ्याम निस्त्रिगुण्यत्व अनुपपत्तेर भगवदर्पित लक्षण भक्तिस्तु कर्मण वैफल्य भाव मात्रम प्रतिपादयति न तो स्वस्य भक्ति व्यपदेशम प्राधान्य अभावात् एव. What does this mean? That if we consider jnana and karma, karma means shastrukta karma as per one's varna and ashram. Particularly it refers to uh, uh, grihastha ashram, we can grihastha duties basically. So whether we cultivate knowledge or we perform karma without attachment. However, but the jnana part falls within the category of sattva guna because sattva sanjayate jnana, we see in Bhagavad Gita. And uh, the the motivation for karma, performing any karma, that is rajoguna or mode of passion. Because if you don't have any uh, material desires, then why would you do any karma? So the karma has been given uh, for living entities because there is we are influenced by the mode of passion. That means we have material desires, and because we have material desires, so uh, there is a vidhana from Shastra, from Lord Krishna, to perform karma. So now we may get detached from karma gradually by offering the results to Lord Krishna. So that is a different thing. But from in the beginning, we will need uh, karma. because we have material desires. So, uh, this particular statement makes the declaration that bhakti is transcendental, whereas jnana is satoguna and karma is rajoguna. So, it establishes the superiority of bhakti. So now someone may argue that, but you only said that this Shri Bhagavad Arpita Nishkama Karma Rupaha Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, this yoga is also Nishkama Karma Rupa Bhakti. Hi. So the bhakti which is done while performing Nishkam Karma, that is also a type of bhakti. So, uh, what about that? So, is that transcendental or not? So, the answer is that this particular type of bhakti, Sri Bhagavad Arpita Nishkama Karma Rupa Bhakti hi. It's a very long statement. The point is that the bhakti which is done along with performing Nishkam Karma. So performing our own karma without any attachment to it and offering the results to Lord Krishna. So this kind of bhakti is not transcendental. And this particular Nishkama Karma Rupa Yoga or Nishkama Karma Yoga, basically, that actually uh, establishes the uh, Vaifalya Abhav of karma. So this Nishkam Karma Yoga Bhakti is also a type of bhakti. It's not transcendental, but it is also a type of bhakti, we can say. And it is not transcendental, and this particular type of bhakti establishes that the uh, Vaifalya Abhava. Vaifalya Abhava means Vaifalya means uselessness, and Abhava means absence. So, absence of uselessness of karma. So, to put it in simple words, we should not conclude that karma is useless. So karma also has some application in our life, and that is why when we say yoga is also Bhagavad Sri Bhagavad Arpita Nishkama Karma Rupaha, and because we offer the results to uh, our karma to Lord Krishna, so that is also a bhakti. So uh, what that particular bhakti actually establishes that karma is not useless, it is useful, and uh, but that we should not take it as a bhakti. Don't mistake it as uh, bhakti. So it does not actually represent bhakti. So it is in a loose sense we can say that it is a nishkama Sri Bhagavad Arpita Nishkama Karma Rupa Bhakti hi, that we can say that it is nishkam karma along with bhakti, and the results of karma are offered to Lord Krishna. But that is not technically bhakti yoga, which is considered transcendental. So that is the point. And why do we conclude like this? So the answer is pradhanya abhavat, because in nishkam karma yoga, just to put this long statement in short, we will just call it Nishkam Karma Yoga, because Nishkam Karma Yoga or any other yoga henceforward is Bhakti Yoga, because there is an element of Bhakti. It's just you know it becomes more complicated, but in the beginning we have to explain it, because all this yoga must have Bhakti to actually bear any results. So here uh, this Nishkam Karma Yoga. So we'll not one again and again mention the word Bhakti with this. So this Nishkama Karma Yoga also has bhakti in it, and but because bhakti is not predominant in Nishkam Karma Yoga, that is why this Nishkam Karma Yoga actually does not represent bhakti. So you should not take it as bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is a separate thing, while whereas Nishkam Karma Yoga that also contains some, so that is different. Okay. Next, यदि च भगवद अर्पितं कर्म अपि भक्तिरेव इति मतं तदा कर्म किं स्यात्. Now someone may argue, say that's only for the argument's sake. Someone may argue that Bhagavad Arpitam karma api bhakti. If we think or if we consider that the karma which is offered to Lord Krishna, that is also a bhakti, then how do we define karma? So that's a very interesting question or argument that if you offer everything to Krishna, then that karma becomes bhakti. So then the answer is yad bhagavad anarpitam karma tadevi karma kad karma chain na. So then actually, so Vishwanath Chakra Thakur uh, just carries this logic that so then naturally we should conclude that which is the karma which is not offered to Lord Krishna should be taken as karma. Otherwise, the karma which is offered to Lord Krishna should be taken as bhakti. But but here is the problem. Vishwanath Chakra Thakur supplies references from Shastra to negate this point. No, don't take it conclude it like this. Uh, because whenever we say Nishkam karma, that actually means it should be referred to Krishna. Because without bhakti, there is there is no use of Nishkam karma or even jnana. So why we need this discussion? So that we can understand how bhakti is the actual ultimate conclusion of all yogas. Even Nishkam karma and jnana, bereft of bhakti, are useless. So he supplies verses from Shastra. नैष्कर्म्यमपि अच्युत भाववर्जितं न शोभते ज्ञानमलं निरञ्जनं कुतः पुनः शश्वतभद्रमीश्वरे न चार्पितं कर्म यदप्यकारणम् यदि नारद उक्त्या तस्य वैयर्थप्रतिपादनात्. So any nishkarmya or nishkam karma not offered to Lord Krishna is uh, useless. Na shobhate. So na shobhate is a very sophisticated way of saying that it is useless. It actually means it is useless, meaningless. Okay. तस्मादत्र भगवत चरण माधुर्य प्राप्ति साधनी भूता केवल श्रवण कीर्तन आदि लक्षणा एवं भक्ति निरूप्यते. So, and because of this, here only the Shravan Kirtanadi Lakshana Bhakti or the Bhakti which is characterized by hearing, chanting, remembering the Lord Krishna, etc. Only that type of Bhakti has been uh, accepted, uh, and that alone actually gives us the uh, lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So that is the conclusion. But then he says, Yatha Nishkama Karma Yogopi Nirupitavyaha. But along with that, the Nishkam Karma Yoga should also be explained. So, uh, just to summarize once again, so here the yoga can mean Bhakti Yoga and it can also mean Nishkam Karma Yoga. Nishkam Karma Yoga also has Bhakti because without Bhakti, the Nishkam Karma is also useless. So, in that sense, Nishkam Karma Yoga is also called a type of bhakti because the karma, uh, whatever karma we perform in Nishkam Karma Yoga, that has to be offered to Lord Krishna without having any attachment to its results. For example, a grahastha is performing his duty. He's maintaining his family. So, uh, so when he performs Nishkam Karma Yoga, so what will he do? So he will maintain family without any attachment to the family. Taking this duty as the order from Lord Krishna and simply execute it and offer those results to Lord Krishna. So uh, that is called Nishkam Karma Yoga. And uh, the more we are detached from karma, the more we are uh, engaged in Bhakti Yoga or in the Bhakti part of Nishkam Karma Yoga. So, uh, for a Grahastha, let's see, how do we understand that somebody is performing Nishkam Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga? If a Grahastha is maintaining his family, so should we say he is doing Nishkam Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga? So it depends on his consciousness. So if he is not attached to the results of his duty, his family life, and if he is just executing this order only as a service to Krishna and offering all the results to Krishna, then that Nishkam Karma Yoga also becomes bhakti because all the karmas are offered to Lord Krishna. And because he is also performing Shravana Kirtanam and Smaranam Ityadi, so that bhakti is already there. So, uh, so if a Grahastha devotee, if he is performing the pure form of Bhakti Yoga, that is characterized by Shravana Kirtan Ityadi, and uh, offering all his Grahastha duties or the results of Grahastha duties to Lord Krishna, then actually he can be said to be situated in Bhakti Yoga completely. However, if a Grahastha uh, devotee is attached to his results, he still have material desire, then uh, he has to gradually purify himself by offering whatever the results he receives by his performing his grace and duty to Lord Krishna. So that we can say that it is uh, Nishkama Karma Yoga uh, uh, in process. So it is not actually attain Nishkam Karma Yoga. It is in process because he's still having material desires. So he's trying his best to offer the results of his karma to Lord Krishna because offering one's result to Krishna does not happen overnight. It's a process. So it takes some practice. So anyway, let's keep it up to this point uh, because our time is also up. I'll just cover the other part. The rest is very simple. Ubope eto buddhi yoga shabdavachyo jneo. So all these Nishkam Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga uh, technically called Buddhi Yoga. So both can be called Buddhi Yoga. Dadame Buddhi Yogam tam yena mam yantite iti Duryan yavaram karma Buddhi Yoga dhananjaya iti cha uktehe. So these are the verses from Bhagavad Gita why we should take Nishkam Karma Yoga also as Bhakti Yoga. Uh, if you want to go, you can go because we just cover this point because otherwise it will be very difficult to again uh, explain all these things. So we can hear the recording part. If you want to leave, we can leave. Okay. अथ निर्गुण श्रवण कीर्तनादि भक्ति योगस्य महात्म्यम आह नेह इति. Now the glorification of Shravan Kirtana bhakti has been explained here. यह यह भक्ति योगे अभिक्रमे आरंभ मात्रे कृते अपि अस्य भक्ति योगस्य नाशो नास्ति तथा प्रत्यवायस्य न स्यात्. So so this particular point has been explained by Srila Prabhupada that whatever we do in Krishna consciousness is permanent and there is no pratyavaya. Pratyavaya means there is even if you don't, if you are not able to complete it, so there is no fault. You do not receive any fault because uh, In karma, if you do not complete it, then you get pratyavaya dosh. If you do not do it properly, then you get uh, bad results of not performing that karma. So that is not the case in bhakti. That's why it is said pratyavayana vidyate. So if you perform bhakti, and even if you are not able to complete it or do it in perfection, still uh, you will not get any fault. I will take question at the end because now this later part is very simple. So I will just complete it. Okay. यथा कर्मयोगे आरंभं कृत्वा कर्म अनुष्ठित अन अननुष्ठितवतः कर्मनाश प्रत्यवायो स्याताम् इति भावः. But if we compare it with karma, so in karma, if we do not complete it, then there is karmanasha and pratyavaya both. Karmanasha means uh, if you get another birth, then once again you have to start from new karma. Not that today we may have done uh, your karmas very properly, nicely, but somehow that you could not complete it. So in the next birth, again we have to start from the scratch. That is karmanasha. So actually, you did not get any results of your karma of your previous birth. So once again, you have to start your karma. And pratyavaya means because you did not complete it, so you get uh, uh, pratyavaya dosha. That's bad results of not doing your karma. ननु तर्हि तस्य भक्ति अनुष्ठातुः कामस्य समुचित भक्ति अकरणात् भक्तिफलं तु नैव स्यात् तत्रः स्वल्पमिति. So can we say the same thing for bhakti? That is the argument. The answer is no. Even if someone does a little bit of bhakti, so that is also great safety for a devotee. अस्य धर्मस्य स्वल्पमपि आरम्भसमये या किञ्चिन्मात्रे भक्तिरभूत् सापि इत्यर्थः महतो भयात् संसारात् त्रायते एव. So it delivers whatever little bhakti we perform, uh, kinchin, kinchin matri bhakti. So that delivers a devotee from samsara or material existence. Ajamiladau tatha darshanacha. So what are the examples? Ajamil, we see the story of Ajamil. So he performed little bhakti in the beginning, but he got delivered at the end of his life. So that is the Mahatmya of bhakti. न ह्यङ्गोपक्रमे ध्वंसो मद्धर्मस्योद्धवाणपि मया व्यवस्थितः सम्यक् निर्गुणत्वानदाशिषः त्वादनाशिषः इति भगवद्वाक्येन सह अस्य वाक्यस्य एकार्थमेव दृश्यते. मोरल् सेम्. किन्तु तत्र निर्गुणत्वान् न हि गुणातीतं वस्तु कदाचित् ध्वस्तं भवति इति हेतुरूपो न्यस्तः स चेह अपि द्रष्टव्यः. Now here is something we should pay attention to. So someone may argue that then what about Nishkam Karma Yoga? Uh, is it transcendental like bhakti? Because we also perform bhakti in that uh, we give the results of our karma to Lord Krishna. So does that mean that uh, we will the result is will be transcendental? The result of all this Nishkam Karma Yoga. So the answer is uh, न न च निष्काम कर्मणोपि भगवद अर्पण महिमना निर्गुणत्वम इति वाच्यम. So nishkam karma, even though it is offered to Lord Krishna, it's not considered transcendental. Why? There is a reference from Bhagavatam. I think it is from Bhagavatam. Madarpanam nishphalam va satvikam nijikarma tat iti vakyena tasya satvikatva uktehe. So I think it is from Bhagavatam. It's not particularly mentioned whether it is from Bhagavatam or anyone else. Uh, Most probably from Bhagavatam. So it is said that this nishkam karma is actually sattvika. It is considered in the mode of goodness. So it is not transcendental. So if one performs only nishkam karma yoga, then uh, that is not as good as bhakti. So there may be some element of bhakti in Nishkam Karma Yoga. So, so that particular bhakti, that will be transcendental, and that will have permanent results. But if we think that this Nishkam Karma Yoga, the whole package is transcendental, then that is a mistake. The whole Nishkam Karma Yoga will not be transcendental. So whatever little bhakti we perform in Nishkam Karma Yoga, so that will be transcendental. But the whole process of Nishkam Karma Yoga is not transcendental, it is sattvic. So why we should understand this? Because that the uh, glorifies Bhakti Yoga. Because Bhakti Yoga is so transcendental that there is no actually uh, uh, any need of fear. So that is the import of this particular verse. Okay, if someone has any question, they can ask now. Just a minute. Huh? I will have to. Oh, I will not. Okay. Yes, Priyanka, you can ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
And I'm very grateful to for this wonderful lecture. So I had two questions actually. So one question is that why when the Lord created so many yogas? So if there was only Bhakti Yoga, then no one would be very confused. They would only follow the Bhakti Yoga. Then it will be all right for all the people. So why there are so many yogas?
Okay. Another question.
Another question is that we understood that how bhakti is there in Nishkam Karma Yoga. So how can we classify bhakti in other yogas such as Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga?
What do you mean by classify? It is already there. Whenever we say that it is Ashtanga Yoga, that means there has to be bhakti in that. Otherwise, simply just doing Ashtanga Yoga, it does not make any sense because the word yoga becomes meaningful when you have bhakti in it. There has to be bhakti in that. So it may be that it's not just it may be, but it is a fact that Ashtanga Yoga means it is predominantly uh, uh, characterized by this Ashtanga yoga system, eightfold mystic yoga, and there is cultivation of knowledge in that, and there is a meditation part. So, along with this predominant characteristic, there has to be bhakti element in Ashtanga Yoga. Only then it becomes yoga. Otherwise, it is simply just you may do something Ashtanga this thing and that thing, or you may have some element of jnana in that. But neither jnana nor Ashtanga practices can bear any results if there is no bhakti in that, or and without bhakti this Ashtanga yoga cannot be called yoga. So that is the point we should understand. Bhakti means yoga. The other things are not even yoga. They are simply uh, different approaches to bhakti, but they are not uh, in and of itself yoga. Yoga means bhakti. Whenever we say yoga, that means there has to be bhakti. Bhakti means yoga and yoga means bhakti. These are simply different approaches. Karma yoga, when we say nishkam karma yoga, that means nishkam karma approach of towards bhakti. Nishkam karma approach towards bhakti. Jnana yoga means jnana approach towards bhakti. Ashtanga yoga means ashtanga uh, approach, eightfold approach towards bhakti. So towards bhakti, why we say towards bhakti? Because it's not complete bhakti. There is some element of bhakti. That's why there are different approaches. If somebody is just doing, uh, uh, somebody has reached the conclusion that uh, uh, the Shravana, Kirtana, Smarana, Ityadi, all this hearing, chanting, and remembering of Lord Krishna is the goal of everything. Vasudeva Saramiti, Sa Mahatma Sudarlabha. Then even if he is performing Astang Yoga and all these things, still that will be considered bhakti because now he has reached the conclusion. So long he has not reached the conclusion, so long uh, he is taking different approach to perform bhakti to the best of his capacity, then that is considered Ashtanga Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga. When he reaches the conclusion that bhakti is the goal of everything, then he will not be considered as Ashtanga Yogi or Karma Yogi or Jnana Yogi. He will be known as Bhakti Yogi because now he reached the end. So before reaching the end, there are steps in between. So he's just performing those steps. So a person who has perfected Ashtanga Yoga and reached Bhakti Yoga conclusion, he will not be considered Ashtanga Yogi. He will be considered Bhakti Yogi because now he will be performing Shravan Kirtan. So maybe he is meditating, but he's meditating on Lord Krishna. But he's that you cannot say that he's performing Ashtanga Yoga. He's performing. Okay, some internet issue. Okay, I will connect different connection. Let us see. Just a minute, huh? I will just connect. Okay. Hopefully it should come. Hmm, what happened? It's not coming. Oh Krishna. Okay, we are back.
I didn't hear anything that you said, Prabhuji. Your voice and video was cracking too much.
Okay, okay, okay. I'll repeat once again. What is something strange is coming here. Anyway, leave it. So the point is that if, when we anyone is having different approaches in terms of karma, nishkam karma yoga or jnana yoga or ashtanga yoga towards bhakti, then he will be known by those terms that he is a nishkam karma yogi or just karma yogi for, in simple words, or he is jnana yogi or he is a ashtanga yogi. But once he reaches the conclusion that bhakti, the Shravana Adi Kirtan Rupa Bhakti, that is the ultimate goal of everything. Then he may be having different approaches, but he will be known as Bhakti Yogi only. So I gave the example that if Ashtanga Yogi reaches the conclusion that Vasudeva Saramiti, Lord Krishna is everything, he is my life and soul. So now he may be meditating um in a different postures, but he will be performing Bhakti Yoga alone. For example, Dhruv Maharaj. So he's performing Bhakti Yoga. So externally, we may call it as Ashtanga Yoga approach, but he reached the conclusion that Krishna is everything. So uh, the form may be different, but he's actually performing Bhakti Yoga. For example, Narad Muni. when Narad Muni is sometimes he's singing, sometimes he's glorifying Lord Krishna, sometimes he's meditating Lord Krishna through yoga. So, but Narad Muni cannot be considered as a Ashtanga yogi. He is Bhakti yogi, he's an Acharya of Bhakti. So when we say Ashtanga yogi or Karma yogi, Nishkam Karma yogi or Jnana yogi, that is because of uh, he has taken this different approach and he has not reached the conclusion, and that is why we call that particular person by that title, that he is Nishkam Karma Yogi, he is Jnana Yogi, he is Ashtanga Yogi. We do not call him as Bhakti Yogi because he has not reached the conclusion. If one comes to conclusion that Bhakti is everything, then a person may be performing his Nishkam Karma, if performing his karma without any attachment, offering everything to Krishna, and along with that, he is performing the bhakti 24/7, like Janak Maharaj. So Janak Maharaj will not be considered as a Nishkam Karma Yogi. He is Bhakti Yogi only. And similarly, Jnana Yogi. Uh, so, for example, Chatush Kumar. They may be now because they may be before Jnana Yogi, but now they reach the conclusion of Bhakti. So, they may be discussing different elements of jnana, but they are actually bhakti yogi. And the first question which you ask, that why there are different yogas. There are different yogas because there are different people of different understanding, different levels. So if somebody is able to get the conclusion of bhakti right from the beginning, that depends on his will, because bahunam jarmanam anti jnanavan mam prapadyate. So that is also a point that after so many births, a knowledgeable person comes to conclusion that Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Vasudeva is everything. So that is very rare. So it is not that simple. So that's why Lord has given all these systems. But in the Kali Yuga, the systems of karma and jnana are ineffective, and that is why we should not rely on it. So that does not mean we have to give up jnana or we have to give up karma. We should not conclude that okay now uh, karma means like grasta should not think that now I will give up my grasta duties. I will simply do bhakti yoga, which will not be possible anyway. So we have to perform our karma. We have to cultivate knowledge. Take the knowledge, help of knowledge, that we are not this body, we are spirit, soul. So, oh, what is this? This is jnanam. This is the atma anatma viveka. That is jnanam. To differentiate between what is soul and what is not soul. So it's not that we are not cultivating knowledge. We are not performing karma. Those are who are grahasthas. They are performing their duties. But we should not take this karma and jnana elements as our sadhana, whole sadhana. So that, if we just treat them as our whole sadhana, so this alone cannot lead us to liberation. So we need tivra bhakti. Only tivra bhakti, along with all this karma and jnana, can lead us to liberation. So that is the point. Okay. Anything else?
Like in this point you were telling to, I want to add something like in Ishopanishad it is said that side by side the material jnana also should go and side by side the bhakti also should go. Then you will get perfection like that.
That this, yeah, we can say like that. That we have to uh, because we are having material desires, so we cannot be indifferent to avidya or whatever karma we have to perform. So we like to eat nice things, we like to wear nice things, we need safety, we need bank balance, we need so many things, we need husband, we need wife, we need children, so many things. So so if we have such desires and it is not possible to overcome these desires overnight, it is not possible. It is foolishness to conclude like that. So these desires will gradually diminish over a period of time. But that's why karma has been given, that if you have this desire, perform this karma, karma of a grahastha. Okay, uh, get ready to a nice husband or wife, and perform your duties, and gradually get detached from all this karma, offer those results to Lord Krishna, and perform Tivra Bhakti Yoga while you are in Grahastha Ashrama. So, by the power of Bhakti Yoga, and with the help of karma and little jnana, so that help us to become liberated. Otherwise, to overcome these anarthas, only with the help of bhakti, which is technically possible, but because we are not free from material desires, so it is actually not possible. If somebody like Tukaram Maharaj, you might have heard this name, Tukaram Maharaj from Maharashtra. So somebody, some grasa, if it's like Tukaram Maharaj, then he doesn't have to think about even performing karma or jnana. He can just be absorbed in bhakti yoga. But that is something very rare. These such persons are very rare. Most of people in Grahastha ashram, they have material desires. Material desires means not like big thing. You were thinking that just to have some roof and some food, nice food, some taste. All these are also material desires. So, or for we can say we need a nice bed. We can't just sleep on the floor. We need nice clothes. So these are all material desires. It's not that we should not have clothes, but if you are attached to particular clothes, no, we cannot remain without these beautiful, colorful dresses. We cannot be detached from these ornaments. We like to go to parties. We like to go to social functions. We like to chat with our friends. So what is this? These are all material desires. So the purification will happen gradually through bhakti yoga. But so long we have this material desires, we have to take help from karma, shastrukta karma. That technically and practically means grahastha ashram for most of people, and take help of jnana. That's why we are discussing this jnana aspects, that we are spirit souls. We are not this body. There is a birth, old age, disease, uh, old age. So it's all painful. What is it? This is not bhakti. This is not bhakti. Bhakti means glorify Krishna. So where is bhakti in this? We are not this body. We are spirit soul. Where is bhakti in that? Or we are there are janma mrityu jara vyadi. There is no bhakti in that. So we are taking help of this because we are not able to even relate bhakti immediately. We are not able to relate to bhakti immediately. Most of us who came to Krishna consciousness because of all these aspects, because we were suffering, we were having material desires, or we were attached to some knowledge that what it is about, how everything works in the world, who am I. So the center focus is not that, and I want to love Krishna. No one comes to Krishna consciousness like that. The beginning is always me, my desires, my inquiries. So then gradually we purify ourselves. We are not purifying ourselves, but it's bhakti that purifies ourselves. But we practice bhakti yoga predominantly along with performing our individual karma, taking help from jnana. So that is how the whole process works. Okay, I will stop here. Already I've taken so much time. I'm sorry, but this is little technical today. I'm extremely sorry for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता जी की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।